and good morning, Hoosier Nation. A very good morning, an extra good morning, a fantastic morning to you, Hoosier Nation. This is Hoosier Morning After Purdue. Last night, your Indiana Hoosiers go on to sweep, what a beautiful word that is to say, sweep the Purdue Boilermakers for this season and beat them 79-71, bringing their record in the Big Ten to 11-7. Third place, I believe, right now in the Big Ten. Purdue just kind of got out to a good start, riding that energy and emotion. A packed Mackey, a loud Mackey doing what it does in this rivalry. And IU was not playing tough on the defensive end and just kind of was a little frazzled on the offensive end as Purdue's game plan to shut down the paint and Trace Jackson-Davis was working. Then our freshman star said, "Hold up a second. That's giving me an opening. Let me show you what I can do." And Jalen Hood-Schifino just took care of business. And while he was doing good things on the offensive side, the defensive side was still struggling a little bit. And then at about the 14-minute mark, like we have seen, and can't complain much anymore about, Coach didn't like what he saw out there and called a timeout, and that really seemed to calm and focus the team on the defensive side of the ball, at least for the first half. And after that, the pressure was turned up, and IU kind of scratched back from a 7-point loss, brought it within 1, 2, and made it pretty close until like a 3-point made shot by Purdue towards the end of the half made it a 4-point halftime loss. But the second half, IU just took off. Defensive intensity was finally where it needed to be. And on the offensive side, just everyone contributed. IU took command in the lead and weathered the slowest moving clock that I have seen in a long time. A lot of you Hoosiers, maybe like me, with very little nails left on your fingers. It was exciting to have that lead, but also nerve-wracking, as I think that is a common theme for us IU fans to just kind of slightly be nervous when we have good things. And I was definitely that. But so excited to see us weather those free throws at the end and just take care of business. Thank you for being here with us. Those of you that are slightly hungover, those of you that are waking up late and listening to this afterwards, celebrating what a great Sunday this is to be a Hoosier. Thank you for being with us. I'm your host, Chad Schwartzkopf. Here with me always is Martha the Mop Lady. Martha, give me your opening thoughts.
I mean, what an exciting performance, right? I mean, tale of two games this week. I think after Michigan State, the concern was, a little bit of exposure in terms of, who's going to step up at the right time when guys aren't hitting shots. And even into halftime against Purdue, right, Jalen is just knocking down shot after shot, but 3 guys scored at halftime. And I even fired off a tweet. I'm like, is this sustainable, right? I mean, somebody still needs to step up at some point, because we had seen, the story with Jalen had been, as good as he's been, very, very streaky shooter, right? But man, that was the pro that everybody sees in Jalen Hood-Schifino, right? That's him showcasing what he's able to do and what he'll be able to do at the next level, right? I mean, that's lottery pick stuff. That's a lottery pick performance. And that's just one you have to sit back and appreciate while you can, because that was some good stuff. And hitting baskets when we needed them, not backing down from the moment, just good stuff. Especially when Trace wasn't putting up the points that Trace does, and you can't say enough about Trey Galloway. The guy was a machine all night. I got up early and watched the game on replay, and the dude was just as active as he was the most active guy on the court, just all over the place. And I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit. But for me, at the end of the day, it's about the other things we were able to accomplish, right? I mean, you look at how we're positioned with potentially having a double bye, another net 1 win. You wanted to split these 2 games on the road at Michigan State, at Purdue, and we were able to do that. You prevented your rival from celebrating a Big Ten championship on their home court in front of you. That's a tough place to play. So, while we may have seen some of the limitations of this team, I think we got a glimpse into what the ceiling could be for this team too. If they get that type of guard play, they can beat anybody on any given night.
How quiet Mackey was at the end of that game was just so satisfying music to this Hoosiers' ears throughout it. Yeah, Jalen Hood-Schifino, just wow, what a game from him. And anyone that was saying that there's no way he's being drafted, that he's a one and done or anything like that, this just put any of those arguments to shame, and you're just blind if you think any other way now as a Hoosier, or you're just lying to yourself and hopefully wishing that he would come back and play again. And I do as well. But man, what a tool the coaching staff now has to show these elite players that they are recruiting. Just make a mixtape of what Jalen started as, then the go that he got and how he's developed and what he's gotten to do, and then just show him this game. And who's not going to want to come and be developed and do that kind of situation? It's just amazing. Not only was I excited to see what he did for himself and the points that he made, but to me, something that we talked a little bit on last show and some previous shows was we kind of questioned Jalen Hood-Schifino missing a few of the players that were wide open for three-point shots. And is he just missing it? Is he purposefully missing them and stuff like that? And for what he did in the first half, that just opened up things for the rest of the team. And in the second half, you just saw him make those passes. He found Miller Kopp for some great looks. He found Trey Galloway for some great looks. And maybe when we get deeper in talking about three-point shooting, that allowed us to have a higher volume than we've had as of recent from the three-point line. But again, Jalen Hood-Schifino just continues to be amazing for this team, just a great player. And it's hard to reprogram your brain to someone that is so great at that mid-range shot, because again, in basketball, college especially, that is something you don't see very often, and it is such a low percentage type of shot to take that but he hits them, but he makes them. He does it. So it's a weird thing that I've had to train myself for, but just such an amazing player to have. So excited to have him. And this just becomes his benchmark game. Again, just going over his stats for this game: 35 points, 14 for 24, 1 for 2 from the field, 6 for 7 on free throws, 3 turnovers, 2 assists, played all 40 minutes. Just a great game from him. What your thoughts on Jalen?
I mean, what more can you say, right? And stepped up when we needed him. And I thought, your point, I think you've got to give credit to the coaching staff as well. I was as critical as anybody early in the year when we went through that slump, but the way that they've helped him develop throughout this season, especially with X going down, right? I mean, and just to your point, right? Just what we've now got as kind of what we're able to show recruits, especially point guards, right? You bring in a guy like Jalen and develop him throughout the year, and he's likely going to be a lottery pick at this point with the way he's playing down the stretch. And, credit to the coaching staff, right? And even they were really, really good last night, just calling timeouts when they needed to, calling plays out of timeouts that resulted in baskets. So you've got to give credit to the staff for putting him in the right position, but you've also got to give credit to Trace too. I think Trace made a comment after the game where Coach Woodson challenged him a little bit to get active, and he said, "Look, Jalen's feeling it right now. Let's ride him." And that's big from an All-American to step up and say, a guy who's playing against a competitor that there's a lot of conversation about which one of these guys is the player of the year. I mean, so and Trey could have been very, very selfish in that moment, but Jalen was feeling it, and props him too. I mean, you heard Coach Painter say, we wanted to force him to beat us with his left hand, and he was driving, using his left hand, taking open perimeter shots. There was nobody on the floor that could stop him last night. And for an 18, 19-year-old freshman in that environment, I mean, it speaks to the ceiling this kid has. And again, I'm now I kind of started the year. I'm like, maybe we can convince him to come back for a second year. I'm now to the point where I'm just sitting here saying, I'm going to enjoy this man while we have him. And
we're going to have to get the donor that helped us get rid of Archie to open up his pocketbook again. Right. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, just such an amazing game from him, and wave goodbye and a fond farewell and kisses to him, because he is going. And I think one of the projections I saw recently was possibly going 13th in the draft and everything. Trace, I believe, was like about 30 or so in that as well, in that prediction. So nice to see him mentioned in the boards as well. Trace Jackson Davis kind of struggled in the first half, and that had you shown this kind of in one of those games we like to play where show someone just a few stats and what would they think the final outcome of the game would be. If you showed someone the stats that and told them that Trace Jackson Davis would score no points in the first half, would get 10 in the second on Purdue, you would think that we lost this game. And we didn't. Again, it was amazing. Trace came out, still looks a little weathered. I wouldn't say necessarily tired. Obviously, you're going to shy away a little bit from Edey. You're going to struggle to figure out a way to get around him and everything. And they did in the second half. But I think it's a product of, again, just riding the hot hand, like you said, what Trace said in the final comments after the game. But he finished still with a decent enough 10 points and made all of his free throws. So a relatively good game from him, 8 rebounds, but not obviously a high-scoring Trace game that we're used to seeing. But good to see him at least get active in the second half. What are your thoughts on Trace's game?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously for multiple reasons kind of a tough matchup for him. And for him, he played 33 minutes, but that's kind of a low night for him from a minute standpoint. Battled foul trouble, right? But I thought he did a great job of all things considered playing defense. Both he and Race, that's a tall task being tasked with guarding Edey, and Edey missed a lot of shots he normally makes. So credit to them. And another weird stat, and I think we got beat on the boards, but Fox showed a stat, 3/4 through the game that Indiana was leading points in the paint by a point. And some of that may have been, Hood-Schifino getting into the lane and scoring some of those points too. But that's, when you're going up against Zach Edey, that's a pretty big accomplishment in and of itself. So what I thought from Trace is obviously I was concerned at halftime, right? I think a lot of people were. Is he injured? I saw comments about the shirt he was wearing underneath his jersey. Is he hiding a back brace or something? All sorts of, what we like to do, right? We're conspiracy theorists at times. But when he needed to turn it on, there was about 10 minutes to go in the game, and we had built that cushion, but we needed some guys to step up to kind of keep that cushion. He made some really, really big baskets when he needed them. He turned into the All-American when we needed him to, and I think that's what's that's what was big for him is he turned it on when he needed him to, and I think that's all you can say. He was unselfish. He allowed Jalen to do his thing, and ultimately we left with the win. And I think that is what Trace would be happy with.
And the other exciting part, something that we lacked, obviously, in the Michigan State game was additional role players, other guys other than named Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis, guys with 2 names to step up and help take care of business, and they did in this one. Trey was just lightning in this game and continues to be that dog of a player that we love and that I love so much. I think it's partially just being an Indiana kid. He knows how much games like this mean, and I kind of attribute it not unlike Will Sheehey. Will Sheehey was that kind of player too, where he just seemed to get extra juice when playing against Purdue. Also had, as I commented on Twitter, maybe now my second favorite missed dunk in IU history, when he fearlessly goes up against Edey and tries to slam it home. I just love that fearlessness out of him. What were your thoughts on Trey's game?
Yeah, I mean, just I feel like he's made for this moment, right? Coach's kid and Indiana kid, and sometimes I just enjoy watching him when he doesn't have the ball. I mean, the dude is just all over the place, and he doesn't back down from the moment, like you said. And regardless of who's on him or who he's guarding, there's times he's asked to play point guard, and he does it really, really well. But I thought he had some. And I don't know if you could have said this about Trey last year, but some of the threes he made last night. He made one in the corner, one to start the game when Purdue was out a little bit hot, but he made some massive threes down the stretch too. That I don't know that anybody came into this season thinking we were going to get from Trey. Right? right? We heard about the offseason work on his shot, but when we're here with a stretch where we're missing X and the bench is struggling to step up, if Trey can continue to do that, this team becomes pretty scary in my mind. And so, I mean, just a guy that works. You hear Coach talk about him, right? They call him the crazy man or whatever. Just a guy that continuously works. He's the guy you love to have on your team. If you're an opponent, he's annoying because he's all over the place. So yeah, I mean, you can't say enough good things about his effort last night. I think he's doing a much better job. One of the complaints about Trey has always been, is to get a little bit out of control, and I don't think you see that quite as much as he's kind of, filling into his game a little bit. So just huge performance by Trey last night.
He's a kid that you want to play on that razor's edge. You want him to play on that fine line and everything. Yeah, and you talked about the 3-point shooting. It was 3 for 4 in this game, and actually also played the second most minutes, 38 minutes on the court. And barring Trace again, just to say this while my head's in it. Aside from Trace's obviously looking physically a little weathered, the biggest thing that we said in the last game was that the team looked tired, and not only physically but mentally, and I did not see that at all in this game. I didn't see anyone that looked affected by that. Everyone was woken up. They got good sleep, whether they went into Simply defamation tanks or whatever they did between these two games, gave them the juice that they needed. Obviously, this game as well is going to be juice-inducing itself. So just great to see. Some concerns that we had going into this game, obviously, was their energy, was their focus not being an issue. Miller Kopp, also wanted to speak on him, had a great game, just made himself available as he always does. And like I said before, we were just able to find him in within the game and within the rhythm of things. Finished with 13 points, 3 for 7 from the 3-point line. And again, I think that high volume of threes really helped IU in this one, as far as just not going for those tough twos in situations and finding those open guys for those shots. And also as well, I wanted to speak on this before I pass it to you on Miller Kopp. In the first half, IU was kind of struggling, obviously, to get things going underneath, and we saw the way they were playing the 4 position. They were kind of shading off of Race Thompson when he was out on the perimeter, favoring to kind of clog the lane like they normally would, and to limit Trace Jackson-Davis from getting going. And then I liked an adjustment that we made later on in the second half. I don't know exactly what time it was, but where we took Race out and we put someone else in that was smaller and shifted Kopp to the 4. I loved that move. We didn't go back to it. I don't think we needed to go back to it in the second half, but I liked that adjustment at the end of the second half. Your thoughts on Miller Kopp's game?
Yeah, I think when you look at the box score, I mean, another guy that played 35 plus minutes, 36 minutes. You look at the minutes that Jalen, Trey, and Miller played. They all played more minutes than Trace. And, Miller's a guy that, I see Joel's comment. He's the guy yell at the most, both good and bad. I think there's more good last night, right? I mean, he hit some big shots. And there was this stretch, and I keep going back to it. There was a stretch with about 10 minutes left in the second half. We had built that 8 to 10 point lead, and you knew we were going to have to sustain a run, right? You knew Purdue was probably going to punch back. And Miller made a basket going into the lane. I want to say it was over Mason Gillis, either him or Brandon Newman, one or the other. It was a tough shot, right? But it was one that in the moment we really, really needed. And it was great to see Miller step up in that moment and have some success. Because obviously, you think about some of the adversity he's gone over the last week and a half, the situation at Northwestern. He's been pretty streaky and a guy we've talked a lot about just trying to find shots for him. But if we can get double digits out of Miller Kopp regularly and Trey Galloway, we become very, very tough to beat, right, when those other guys start stepping up. So just an encouraging night. I thought he played pretty well defensively. I think Purdue had a kind of a off night shooting, but I think that's compliments of our defense, and I think Miller played a big role in that. So, yeah, just another guy that stepped up, when Trace was struggling a little bit, another guy that stepped up when we needed him to.
Yes, defensively, definitely another one of those games where IU just kind of made the other team uncomfortable. I think our physicality really kind of forced Purdue into situations they didn't want to with some of their shots, and just kind of knocked us in a way that you would look back, harken back to what Rutgers did. Again, that's kind of the standard as how they knocked us off our game in that. And I think even the Penn State game was similar to that, where IU now was the one doing it to Purdue in this situation, and they just weren't comfortable with a lot of their shots. And obviously that led to a lot of free throws for Purdue, where Purdue shot 33 to IU's 12. Now, part of me would want to complain and gripe a little bit about that disparity in free throws, but again, I think that's just a product of we were being physical. We did foul quite a bit, but again, I don't mind that, because that allowed them not to get in any sort of rhythm or get any easy points or get their crowd back, because a few of those fouls that you make on easy layups or shots or whatever, you're not going to get a crowd cheering like you would on made free throws as you would on the nice basket or dunk by Edey underneath. So liked that. Rest of the team, I don't know. I still struggle to see where we can get some of those production from the bench. The bench still kind of continuing to struggle for IU. Only 2 points out of the whole bench. That was Malik's 2 points. Caleb Banks, I think, at least on the scoring sheet, but came in and gave some high energy plays for IU. Missing his one free throw again. We got to get that kid in the on the court working on those free throws. 100 free throws or 200 free throws after every practice made before you leave the gym. There, Caleb. Jordan continues to struggle and not find what he has. Again, maybe that's just something to be excited for when it can get unlocked. Big Ten tournament. I'm looking at you and NCAA tournament when he unlocked it. Maybe that's just Jordan time. And then Tamar continues to kind of struggle to find his offense and everything like that. Any thoughts or comments on the bench?
No, I think when you look at Malik, I mean, he's another situation where it seemed like every trip down the floor he was getting whistled for a foul. But another guy that I don't think you can understate the basket he made, on that in that same stretch. The game's winding down a little bit. There's 7, 8, 10 minutes left, and he gets a rebound for a putback basket that I thought was absolutely huge. Had one really stupid foul on a. I don't know if he fouled up maybe Brandon Newman or something. He just went after a ball he shouldn't have and bodied a Purdue guard, and so those are the things he needs to eliminate. Because we're going to need him down the stretch on the court for depth purposes. But I mean, what the hope with the bench, kind of when you look at the box score, I thought Tamar came in and played some good defense, but for him to just constantly put up zeros is. From a scoring standpoint, is just mind-boggling to me with his offensive skill set. So I think when you look at what we've got ahead of us, to your point, right, we've got 2 home games, and we know he plays a lot better at home. And then we've got the Big Ten tournament, hopefully with a double bye and a game or 2 there. But just to try to get a couple of those guys some momentum going into the tournament, right, feeling good about themselves and having a game where they go off for some points. That's my hope for them. I mean, obviously, when you look at the bench, all of a sudden the hope is you're going to be injecting another guy into the lineup somewhere, right? We all know who that is, X, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what that does to the lineup, right? But I think we've got not a lot you can say really about the bench last night, but I think when you look ahead to what we've got here coming up, I think the hope there is that we get some momentum with some of those guys so in a better position heading into the tournament.
Yep. Joel digging up an interesting stat there. Like you said, Malik is a little foul heavy on the defensive side. I think that's part of the freshman in him, struggling not to be a little too handsy than he needs to when he's guarding guys in the dribble. Joel digging up a stat saying that he's averaging 7.6 fouls per 40 minutes played. Yikes. That's not the greatest, but I do like what Greg said here in the chat. Even though the bench didn't contribute towards points, it never felt like they hurt the team or the momentum, and that's a good point too.
I agree.
Obviously, not only not contributing, but at least not being a negative. That's what you can the least you can ask from your bench. Players that come in and just don't do bad things, but allow you at least your starters a chance to relax and get some energy back and rest some. And That's something interesting to look back even too, talking about the rest minutes and everything in this game. If you remember the slight knock on wood, doom and gloom thing that I mentioned in the last Hoosier Morning After, the Michigan State one, was with looking at how gassed this team was, I wanted Trace Jackson Davis, if this Purdue game was coming out of reach, to get rest. I thought that this game, if it was a blowout, could have been a chance for him to get some rest. And I kind of got my wish in the sense it was a blowout for Indiana, and Trace was not the hot hand, so he was able to sit a lot more minutes than he has. 7 minutes is an eternity for Trace Jackson Davis to be able to rest during a game. So great, we were able to see that a little bit. Looking into some minutes, I don't know if you've looked at this. I haven't done this to you a while, Martha. Who was the top of plus minus, do you think? Did you already see it, or do you know?
No, I don't know.
Who would you think?
Trey?
No, it was actually Miller Kopp with
Wow.
with a 12 plus minus
Okay.
in 36 minutes. Trace Jackson Davis just behind that with 11, and then Trey at 9, and Jalen Hood-Schifino at 8. So very interesting to see that. I think always an interesting stat, flawed stat again, as everyone says, but a great stat. Other stats to look at, I always like to look at the layups, and amazingly enough, despite being against a very good big man, IU missed only 2 layups. We tend to be closer to 50%, 50% in that space. Turnovers, great job taking care of the ball, 8 turnovers to produce 10, which IU turned those 10 turnovers for Purdue into 12 points. Purdue, obviously, the biggest glaring one was Purdue had 21 offensive rebounds to IU's 25 defensive, which shows IU was forcing them into a lot of tough shots. Obviously, a lot of missed shots within those to get that many rebounds on that side of the ball. Now, Purdue did get 25 points off of a second chance, and there was that one play towards the end of the game where I think they got 3 or 4 rebounds all in one go. But part of me was going, okay, fine. They just keep missing it. It just keeps ticking the clock down. So I'll take it to that sense. Any numbers that stand out for you in this game?
I think, again, you look at the box score. No, you don't see the final score. You look at the box score, right? I think you immediately think that we lose, right? Our opponent shot 21 more free throws than us. And I don't know that it felt like an awful officiated game. I find it just mind-boggling, and I think they're conditioned to think that they never foul. But every time a Purdue player is whistled for a foul, you think it would be the most egregious call ever. Hands are flailing in the air, and even Matt Painter's talked a lot about like poor officiating, but they have to get one of the best whistles in the conference. And I don't know if that's a reputation Matt's built up, or with Zach just being he's probably a tough guy to officiate. And but I think, again, to me, it's when you look at that disparity from a free throw standpoint, to overcome just another piece of adversity that we were able to overcome. All the chips stacked like they were going into this atmosphere, right? A win gives them a chance to celebrate with a trophy and confetti dropping on you, and to get over that, a place we haven't won in a long time. That was Woody's first win in that building. So for me, it's the adversity, right? I think that's the stat I look at. Is I don't think many people thought we were going to go in there and win, and probably the few that did were on that team in that locker room, and that's all we needed, and they went in and got the job done. So that's what I'm most proud of. It's just
Again, an example in this season, and we've had a few others. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but just another one of those or probably is the top turnaround type of situation for this team. To go from what we saw in the Michigan State game to what we see in this game, just fantastic. What a brilliant focusing. Whatever the teams did for themselves, whatever the coaching staff did to get them ready for this game and get them focused, get them rested and everything. We've been critical about them in slow starts at some portion of the season, questioning the coaching staff and what they've done to get them ready for games and everything, and focused on it. And just it seemed to all happen perfectly. for Indiana in this game, and they took care of business in the right way of this. And for just 1 second, I want to play Captain Hindsight. And now this is never a fun game to play.
Don't do it.
I know it's but if IU would have won the Northwestern game and Michigan State game, we would be in a tie right now for first with Purdue in the Big Ten, with the edge on them because of these 2 wins over them. That's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. I know that's a tough to play those Captain Hindsight. Now there's and I may be wrong on a lot of these, but there's still a route towards that. Purdue needs to lose, obviously, and we need to win out, and we need to become, obviously, with that, big Wisconsin and Illinois fans right now, because that's who Purdue has left in their schedule. But it's very interesting to try to play those games and everything, and I don't want to be too muddy with that. But looking forward, at least in Indiana's games that we have left now, we've got Tuesday's game versus Iowa at home, and then Sunday's game, March 5th, versus Michigan, senior night, a very emotional night for Hoosier Nation, and going to be a very charged games. These next 2 games are going to be big games. We kind of said in the last Hoosier Morning After that this Michigan game was going to be a big one, obviously, because Michigan is fighting for their bubble and fighting for the tournament. And then I thought Iowa's game would be a relatively easy one until now Iowa showed up and had a ridiculous game, coming back down late in this game that they recently had and winning. So they're running a little bit of a hot hand. And speaking of hot hand, what? Maybe we need to comment for a minute about that weird stare off from Fran. What was that? Anyways, look forward into these 2 games. What are your thoughts on IU's games moving forward?
Well, I mean, what a weirdo, Fran. At this point, it's expected, and I think it's just that's just Fran being Fran. But I mean, Woody taps a coach's shoulder and he's teed up, and this guy will have a 30-second stare off, and it's just Fran being Fran. I mean, it's laughable at this point. I am interested to see if he can contain himself in Assembly Hall, because I have a feeling with what transpired in Iowa City in the first game and some of the antics he's been up to since then, that the Assembly Hall faithful are going to be on him from the tip. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles that, So I'm looking forward to that. But again, I think, and just real quick, I want to touch on, you mentioned, looking back or if you could, in hindsight, right?
Mm-hmm.
I in the moment, that was tough, especially early in the year, right? Losing at home to Northwestern and going to Penn State and blowing the 20-point lead at Iowa. But I think that going through that, and it was fresh off X's injury, I think going through that has helped turn this team into what it is, right? They needed to go through those moments. Now, I would love to have the Northwestern game back. I thought the way we came out and played that in the first half, because I think there's a good chance Purdue drops one of these last 2. And if there's just we find a way to win that Northwestern game, there's all of a sudden with 2 home games left, you love the position you're in. But again, I think somebody mentioned it over in the comments. I wouldn't trade our position for anybody. I think we've got all the momentum. I mean, you look at Purdue's Big Ten schedule; they avoided playing at Illinois, at Iowa, and obviously they didn't pick their schedule. But we've got a lot of nice Tier 1 road wins, and we to steal a line from Coach Moore, and we put in the work here, right? We've got some battle scars, but we've also got some massive wins, and I think going through some of this is going to help define us and put us in a good position to potentially make a pretty strong March run.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point there, where you tend to look back when a team is hitting on all cylinders and doing really well, and guys have grown and what they're doing. And you wish for those situations where they struggled and everything. But players like this don't get good like they are right now without those struggles, without the hard times and everything like that. If you're just cruising and playing well and stuff the whole entire season, you've seen it before in March when teams are going well and have easy leagues and continue to do things. Once they hit that adversity in the tournament, they struggle to figure out how to deal with it. Now, this is a battled Hoosier team, and they have had to struggle through things and they have come out a lot better on those situations than they have in past years. And this team has battled back in 2 or 3 games this year when they've been down, and that's going to serve us so well in the tournament and the end of this season of what we can do. And just the different contributors that we've had that have stepped up in different moments, the guys that we still continue to have that are in our holster that we have yet to unlock, that are just ready like loaded guns to just have their own games, to have their games where we're sitting here saying after the game, oh, wow, great to have him back. Oh, this is the Jordan that we used to see. Oh, this is the Jordan we saw at the end of last tournament. Oh, here is Tamar on fire, hitting shots like he can't miss and everything. That's exciting to know that we have that. Here's the old X. X is back. We've got him in there. That just makes you excited as a Hoosier. That's what makes this team exciting. That's what makes this sport overall exciting. The ups and downs, what you go through with your team and what you're able to succeed, and to see the fruits of those labors, of those struggles, of those successes, just in battle a team, make a team that much more rough, that much more tumble, and just be able to go out there and just continue to fight in everything. That fight that this Hoosier team has, that emotion that this team has, and the leadership and everything, it's just, you are very excited to have this Hoosier team right now, this coaching staff, everyone locked in, doing what they need to do and contributing in the ways that they can contribute. So exciting to be a Hoosier right now. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up before I get too psyched up and want to punch a hole through a wall in this. Your final thoughts on this game?
Yeah, just real quick. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the women's team and playing at Iowa today. Another big opportunity for them, but to already have the Big Ten regular season title wrapped up and in strong position going into the postseason. Just want to wish them all the luck both today and next week in the Big Ten tournament. Also, men's swimming won their 300th Big Ten championship yesterday too. That number's a joke, but it seems like they've won about 40 in a row or something. So vibes are strong in Bloomington right now, right? Looking ahead, right? Just real quick, and I think we've got to come out with sharp focus on Tuesday. It's one of those situations where Iowa's playing. I think they're safely in right now, but a team that they need it kind of more than we do right now, and I think. If we don't come out with the appropriate amount of focus, they're an offense that can put us on our heels pretty quickly. And everybody knows that, right? Coach Woodson knows that. The staff knows that. So I'm confident we'll come out prepared, but we can't take them lightly at all, right? So as fun as this win was, I think it's icing on the cake would be to get 2 home wins heading into the Big Ten tournament, because at that point you put yourself in position for a double bye. You're not having to play a weekend full of a bunch of games that could wear you down. Extra rest is huge right now, right? Yeah. Which is, I think you can't understate that double bye leading into the NCAA tournament. So would love to put us. You get 2 wins down the stretch and a win in the Big Ten tournament, and all of a sudden you're safely in that 3 conversation, potentially playing in Louisville. I mean, those are some big things, right? I mean, and to be in the position to make that happen with where we were earlier in the year, I think it's huge. So I'm just excited to see how this team finishes this week. 2 huge opportunities at home, 2 exciting opportunities.
Thank you for reminding me, because I did see that Caitlin was playing. I didn't know IU women's team was playing. That's a joke, guys. That is a joke.
I'm laughing. I got your joke.
Anyways, yes, huge game for the women. Get out there. Obviously, they've already clinched that Big Ten regular season title. Fantastic for them. Just I'm going to have to calm myself when I'm watching that game. I don't think I can watch it live. I can watch it recorded, so at least I can fast forward through the newscasters fawning over her, which is going to be exhausting in this game. But all for the women's. So excited for them to go out. And I love I know as frustrating as it is, and we joke about it here, about the lack of attention that they're getting, part of me likes that because it creates a chip. And this is a team that plays in the women's side that plays with that chip and plays well with a underdog type of mentality on them. But just such an entertaining team to watch because, like we've said before, these 2 teams parallel each other with their toughness and their togetherness and just the many different weapons that both teams have. And very excited. Watch them, cheer them on, and everything. So yeah, again, looking forward into this great, like Martha said, 2 great opportunities, take care of business and everything. That rest that the double bye gives is very much needed, and a good thing for this Indiana team. Then go into the Big Ten tournament, and who knows, maybe our year for the Big Ten tournament. But if it isn't, that's fine. A little bit more rest for the team going forward. So excited to have this game, bask in this win for the Hoosiers and everything, and for Jalen to get that kind of confidence boost. Not really that he needed it or anything, but just to see another facet of his game and another person that we can fall back on, should not everything be firing on all cylinders. Just different weapons, different ways that IU can play, showing that this team is not necessarily one-dimensional, like we have been at many times, that if things aren't going right in one way, that we can find another way to take care of business. So that's going to do it for this edition of Hoosier Morning After. Thank you for being with us this morning and celebrating with us. You were great. We were so happy to have you here with us. Hello to you listening on the podcast platforms. If you are watching here on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and hit that thumbs up for me. Thank you very much. Thank you to Bob Thompson for producing the music you hear on the show. Again, we will be back the morning after the next game. Until then, guys, you go out there. You have yourself a fantastic, wonderful, celebrating day. And let's go Hoosiers.